Theories of the mysterious death of 9 hikers. The Dyatlov Pass incident. 9 Ural Polytechnic students went on a winter trek across the Ural Mountains. The Ural Mountains are Russia's main mountain range and one of the longest in the world. The trip, planned for 3 weeks, turned tragic. 5 hikers were found frozen to death, while the rest were found dead under suspicious circumstances. The discovery of the remaining hikers attracted public attention, especially when the case, known as the Dyatlov Pass tragedy, was closed. Several theories emerged, and until now the cause of death is still a question. What happened to them? We will discuss the beginning to the theories of their deaths, but don't forget to support this channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. The hike was led by a 23-year-old Ural Polytechnic student named Igor Dyatlov. This mysterious incident was named after the leader of the hike, Dyatlov Pass. He and 9 other colleagues, 2 women and 8 men, were about to hike to Mount Ortorten via the small settlement of Viskai. They planned a 16-day, 215-mile hike through the snowy Ural Mountains. After 5 days of traveling, one of the hikers named Yuri Yudin decided to leave his friends due to an Asiatic illness. His 9 friends decided to continue their trek. It is known that all 9 members are experienced hikers. The oldest hiker, Semyon Zolotaryov, once crossed an uninhabited area to ski over a frozen lake. If Yudin had not decided to return home until around February 1st, he would have become a victim of this hike. Hikers last set up tents around this date on the slopes of Mount Kolatsiako, or Dead Mountain, which is located at an altitude of 3,600 feet. They had told the sports club they joined that if they didn't contact them about 3 weeks after their hike, something bad had happened and they should send a search team to the hiking area immediately. There was no message as they promised, so the search team was immediately contacted and conducted a search. Tents belonging to hikers were found around the slopes of Mount Kolatsiako in very mysterious conditions. The search team saw their belongings still in place with shoes, climbing equipment, and clothes neatly arranged. Pieces of food were also found on a plate, as if they were preparing a meal. One side of the tent had been suspiciously cut. According to a tailor, the cuts were made from inside the tent, indicating that the tent occupants exited the tent in a state of haste and desperation. The hikers' shoes were also inside the tent, meaning they left the tent barefoot. A few hundred yards from the tent site, the search team found 21-year-old Yuri Doroshenko and 23-year-old Yuri Krivonishchenko wearing just their underwear. Their frozen bodies lay near the ashy remains of a campfire and a tree. Upon examination, Krivonishchenko had burns on his body. Other injuries included scratches and a piece of flesh inside the mouth of one of the victims because he had bitten his own hand. In a different location, another search team found the frozen bodies of Dyatlov and Zinaida Kolmogorova, one of the 2 22-year-old female hikers. A few days later, the body of Rustam Slobodin was found among the snow. The 23-year-old man had a fractured skull. Probably when he started to lose consciousness, his head hit something. It seems that they were trying to get back to the tent area. Investigators determined that the 5 bodies suffered from hypothermia before they died. The symptoms of hypothermia were apparent from the discovery of the bodies without wearing their clothes in the midst of temperatures that reached 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The phenomenon is called paradoxical undressing, which is experienced by about 25% of people with hypothermia, which makes sufferers feel hot to undress them in the midst of very cold temperatures. To search for the other 4 hikers, the search team decided to wait for the snow in the Ural Mountains to melt. In May, the search resumed. Surprisingly, all 4 hikers were found in the same place with injuries that showed no signs of hypothermia. They were found near a cliff near a shelter they had made out of snow. The 4 hikers were Nikolay Thibos-Brinol, a 23-year-old alumnus with a broken skull. 24-year-old Alexander Kolevatov was found with a twisted neck and no eyebrows. The other 2 were the oldest hiker, 37-year-old Semyon Zolotaryov, who left the tent with only his camera and no gear. And finally, 20-year-old Lyudmila Dubinina. Zolotaryov and Dubinina had the same injuries. Their chests were crushed with several broken ribs and both eyes were missing. Dubinina even lost her tongue. The mysterious deaths of the 4 hikers captured the public's attention, especially when the case was closed in May 1959, when the case was not even a full 1 month old. With the reason that there was no one to blame, The deaths of the 9 hikers were caused by extreme weather. The files regarding this case were then archived and classified. Also, the morgue of their remains was closed so that they could not be accessed easily. It wasn't until the post-Soviet era of the 1990s that they could be accessed again to reveal their deaths. Statements from the authorities did not satisfy the public, so many theories emerged, both plausible and insane, that connects with the KGB and CIA agents. Some believe the hikers died as a result of espionage activities carried out by 2 hikers, Semyon Zolotaryov, a World War II veteran soldier, and Yuri Krivonischenko, who had helped clean up radioactive leaks at the Soviet Union's secret nuclear facilities. Both of them were colleagues who worked for the Komitet Gosudarstvennoy Bezopasnosti, or KGB, the Soviet Union's intelligence and security agency. Through a hike with students in their 20s, Zolotaryov and Krivonischenko were to meet CIA agents around the Ural Mountains to deliver radioactive material and fake Soviet nuclear secrets. Their lies were realized by the CIA, and the CIA killed all the hikers. This theory is supported by the discovery of radioactive substances in the hikers' clothes. Perhaps the radioactivity came from the items they were carrying to hand over to the CIA. It is known that 2 years earlier, Krivonischenko, who worked as a technician, had indeed lived in the contaminated zone after the Kishtim disaster. Although he was in the middle of a cleanup effort, could the remnants of the radioactive substance have rubbed off on his fellow hikers? But some speculate that the radioactivity came from the snow they ate out of thirst. Some say the tragedy was the work of the indigenous hunting tribe around the Ural Mountains, Mansi. The Dyatlov hiking team may have been killed for trespassing into a shamanic ritual area. These shamanic rituals are religious ceremonies to communicate with the spiritual world to predict the future, cure diseases and natural events in everyday life. Although they survived the Mansi tribe's pursuit for some time, their injuries and extreme weather caused them to die. In her journal, Zenaida wrote that she saw Mansi writings that she did not understand. We often saw Mansi signs on this trail. I wondered what they were writing about, the vague writings she saw on trees. If it was the Mansi who killed these hikers, why were their bodies found in different places? Moreover, no human traces were found around their bodies. According to other sources, it was a Mansi tribesman who found the snow hole where the 4 hikers were found. Although there isn't much evidence, people suspect that the hikers were attacked by a Yeti. The Yeti is a creature believed in by Himalayan cultures, especially those of Nepal and Tibet. The Yeti is described as a huge, human-like creature that lives in snowy and isolated mountainous areas. Because there is no scientific evidence, researchers consider the Yeti figure to be a myth or folklore. Yeti was found in the first photo taken by one of the hikers. In the photo, there is a dark human figure stalking between the trees who is believed to be Yeti. The cause of death of the 9 hikers remained unclear for decades. Finally, in 2019, the government reopened the case. Andrei Kuryakov, a prosecutor, was entrusted with leading the investigation. From the results of his investigation, he concluded that the hikers died as a result of a slab avalanche. A slab avalanche is a dangerous type of avalanche where the snow layer below is weaker and the compacted snow slips down. Kuryakov speculates that the hikers were escaping the possibility of a larger avalanche after their tent was hit by an avalanche. They then escaped to a place that was considered much safer. Some warmed themselves with fire, some tried to save their belongings by returning to their tents, while others made temporary shelters from the snow. While they were making shelters, the surface under their feet collapsed and they died with serious injuries. Missing eyes and tongues may have been eaten by scavengers. Kuryakov himself still can't explain why they cut the tent and left without shoes. However, this theory is widely believed by people because it is based on scientific thinking. But according to Jim McElwain, a professor of geohazards at Durham University, slab avalanche is most likely to occur in steep areas. Looking at the position of the hikers' tents, it may not be slab avalanches. Even if it is, other factors may be to blame. Slab avalanche can occur due to a combination of factors such as mountain winds known as katabatic winds and the weakening of the underlying snowpack. Later, various theories emerged that were related to a secret government project. A leader of the investigation in the early 1900s, Lev Ivanov, wrote an article refuting the slab avalanche theory. He wrote that he and other searchers were instructed to hide some important findings. He found gray marks on a tree near where the bodies were found, assuming they were from a heat source that had been deliberately directed at some of the hikers. Ladislav Karelin, a 1595 searcher also disproved the slab avalanche theory. He, who witnessed the discovery of the body directly, said there was not much snow that could have caused the avalanche. What searchers saw were fireballs moving from east to west. Other witnesses saw them moving from south to north about 50 miles from the scene. According to researcher Vadim Skibinsky, the fireballs either came from the exhaust gases of a launched rocket or originated from the test of an R-7 intercontinental missile. Moreover, the last location of the hikers' tents was in the vicinity of the Baikonur Cosmodrome to Kyornaya Guba route, a land that used to be a nuclear testing ground. Another theory was written in a Russian newsletter at a press conference to commemorate the 64th anniversary of the tragedy. Researchers say the Dyatlov Pass tragedy is closely related to the failure of a Russian rocket launch. The failure led to an artificial disaster that befell the hikers. In 2021, 2 researchers from Switzerland tried to test the slab avalanche theory. Johann Gaume, Alexander and Puzrin used a mathematical technique that determined whether a slab avalanche would occur in the same tent location and weather conditions at the time. They published their results in the paper Communication, Earth and Environment, stating that slab avalanche is possible, not certain. With this experiment, the probability of the theory can be increased. After the Dyatlov Pass tragedy, a Dyatlov Foundation was established to respect and remember the victims. One of its founders is Yuri Kuntsevich, who witnessed the hikers' funerals personally. To maintain people's memories of this tragedy, the Dyatlov Foundation established a Dyatlov Museum in Yekaterinburg, Russia. The foundation is also trying to reopen the case for an official investigation and promote safety in the wild for mountaineers. Also, the foundation built a monument at the foot of Mount Kholat Syakhl with the 9 hikers' photos. The monument is used as a place to honor the hikers by their families, researchers, and visitors. What do you think? Which theory makes the most sense with this Dyatlov Pass tragedy? Or do you have your own theory? Write your theory down in the comments section.